Hi guys. Hi. Sorry I'm not with you guys today. Doctor kind of told me I need to go get some tests, so I hope you understand, but we can't lose any days, so we need to keep going. So I'm here after early release and I'm recording the lesson, and I'm hoping that you guys are going to follow along because basically you guys are in charge of your lesson today. So it's just like if I'm here and we're doing notes, so please follow along and do what you got to do. The sub, I know, has already read the sub letter. You're going to watch this video. You're going to follow along on your notes. So I hope you guys already have a copy of your notes. If not, the sub right now, if you wouldn't mind passing those out, it says volume at the top. Follow along with me, and I'm going to get you a little bit of a review on volume. I'm going to show you a little video, and then I'm going to talk about cylinders because that's the new thing that we need to learn. And then we're going to do two together. You're going to do two yourself, and then you might have some time to practice on your own. The calculators are back, so you can do your work on the calculator. But remember, you got to show your work. So anything that I leave, you have to show your work on. Even if you tell me I did it on the calculator, if you only put answers, I can only give you half credit. Remember, it's for me to show you off, not just for me to give you a grade. So let's go ahead and get started. If by now everybody should have a sheet that says volume. So I'm going to go ahead and go on to the Elmo part of our activity. Let me see if I can get there real quick. Let me click here real quick and see if we can find it. Bear with me and see if it'll work. There it is. So I'm going to go ahead and put this. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. By this time, everybody should have their paper in front of them. At this point, you should have something to write with. And I know there's probably a couple of you, like usual, who need something to write with. Please don't use marker. Please do not use marker. I use marker so that you can see it. Oh, of course, a window is going to pop up in front of me while I'm doing this. And then it's going to go away. All right, so now we're good. So basically, we got to see what is volume. What is volume? It's the amount of space inside a shape. So it's the amount of space. Maybe I shouldn't use, let's use a green. Volume is the amount. Oh, there it is again. There's that pesky little box. The amount of space inside, and I know somebody probably already blurted it out, inside a what kind of figure? A two-dimensional figure or a three-dimensional figure? Yes, three-dimensional figure. So I'm just going to write 3D. That's what 3D means, three-dimensional. 3D figure. And there's a lot of different types of figures. So we're going to have to go over all of them. But right now, if you'll take a minute, I'm going to wait just a second. If you'll get yourselves a formula chart, I see them on your tables right now as I'm sitting here giving you the video. So if you'll find a formula chart, I'll wait. All right, by now you should already have a formula chart in front of you. So let's go ahead and keep going. Would you please take a look at your formula chart and would you find me the volume section? The volume section should be located towards the bottom of your formula chart, just like the one I have right here in front of me. So you should see the volume section. On the volume section, you have some prisms or cylinders, you have pyramids and cones, and you have a sphere. So if you'll take a look at that part, and if you'll notice the formulas, take a look at them. The volume formula for a prism or a cylinder is volume equals big BH. And as I say big B, you should start bringing some memories back from 7th grade where they told you about big B. Pyramid or cone has a fraction in front of it. It's 1/3 big BH. And those two should be relatively new to you guys as they're new to 8th grade. And the last one is sphere. Sphere, like a basketball. That one has a bigger fraction that's in front of it and an even different exponent, if you can see, 4/3 pi r cubed. But we're not going to worry about those two today. We're going to focus on volume of a prism over a cylinder. And if we want a prism, remember prisms can be cubes, rectangular prisms, triangular prisms, or cylinders. We're going to consider them all prisms. And if you notice, they all have the same formula. So if we'll go ahead and take that, and that's what we're going to write down on your notes. So if you'll follow along. So the formula for volume of a prism or a cylinder is volume equals big B H. Yep, you heard me say it. Big B H. Now, if you remember, I think Miss Nelson would have done it really loud because she gives it that oomph. She gives it the flavor in there. But we're gonna find this is the formula for prisms and cylinders. Prisms and cylinders. And like I said, both of these formulas are used. This same formula works for both of them. And we're going to focus on that big B. And that's what I'm going to put in those quotations. That is the most important character or most important variable in this formula. And what does big B stand for? Anybody know? At this point, I'm thinking somebody probably said base, and you're kind of close, except that base is an evil word here. It actually means area of the base. Area of the, and I'm going to run out of room, but I'll squeeze it in. Area of the base. So when I say big B, you have to say area of the base. So let's try. Big B, and I hope you guys just said area of the base. So when I come back on Friday, if I say big B, you better say area of the base. Base is a bad word in this case. It's area of the base, not just base. That's why it's a capital B. If we were looking for just base, we would have used a lowercase b, but we're talking about big B. And you learned it in 7th grade, so this shouldn't be anything new. So let's go ahead and take a trip down further on the paper. And if you'll see that we have a bunch of shapes that you should be familiar with. So we're going to talk 3D figures. And blank are the main characters. When you look at a 3D figure and we're talking about volume, we're going to be talking about the main characters, and those are the most important parts to these problems are the bases. So if you'll do me a favor, if you'll take your pencil or a pen, and we're going to shade in the bases. Bases are always parallel from each other. And cubes and rectangular prisms and triangular prisms, they are all named after their bases. But bases cannot touch, except that when you're in a cube and a rectangular prism, those are a little trickier because they're all rectangles or they're all squares, so you can use pretty much any side. When you get to triangular prisms, you have to be specific. So let's color in some of the bases. So in this case, we're going to talk about this one. This is the cube. And on the cube, we're going to shade in the top and we're going to shade in the bottom just so that you can see. Most people think base, and when you think base, you think bottom. So the bases are the bottom, and there's two bases. And if you notice that the two bases do not touch each other, think of it as a sandwich. You have the top part of the bread and the bottom part of the bread. So while we're on this one is this figure is called a, cube, and it's made up of a bunch of squares. I hope somebody said squares, and we all know that squares have congruent sides, so that means that all the sides are equal. So we have a cube, and what is the base of this cube? The base shape. Base is a, what is it? Base is a square. So the shape of our base is a square, and it seems kind of like redundant, and why do I have to learn this and why do I have to write it? But it's critical that you remember prisms from 7th grade because we don't teach them in 8th grade. We're going to learn the cylinder that's over here on the side. This is all review that we're doing here. So a cube has a base, and the base is the shape of a square. And the formula for area of a square, anybody know? All the sides are the same. So if I know that this side is, let's call this side. We'll just call it side. And this side is also side because they're the same. The area formula would be area equals side times side. And a more algebraic way to write this would be side squared. I bet you somebody already said it. So area formula for a square is side squared, side times side, which is pretty easy. So now let's go on to the next one. The next one is your rectangular prism. And I learned this from Miss Nelson. I forgot to write the word bases up here. Bases are the main characters. Sorry about that one. So bases are the main characters. I learned this from Miss Nelson. When you have rectangular prisms, the bases are situational. It depends on how your prism is standing. Sometimes it's standing up like a cereal box. Sometimes it's laying down like this one that looks like a sandbox. Depends on the situation at hand.